Today on Ultimate RC, we're going to look at a couple of different drift builds. That's right, it's drift car day. We have here my first drift car, which is an MST 2.5 with a couple modifications. And over here, we have one I built from a kit by MST. I got it on the sale that A-Main had a few months ago. It was back in the spring. They had a crazy good sale on a bunch of drift stuff, and they had this top of the line MST chassis, carbon fiber. I'm going to show you under the hood. You can see all of it. No electronics, of course, no wheels and tires, but built everything up myself, and it's pretty amazing. Of course, love this DeLorean body I was able to find for it online. I'll find the link to it and post it in the in the description so you guys can check it out for yourself. Really like this. So we're just going to check out this body because it is a thing of beauty. Of course, no logos or anything because probably unlicensed, I'm guessing, but it looks fantastic. I've had some people ask me if I'm going to turn it into a time machine. No, we're not going to turn it into a time machine. We're going to keep it a DeLorean. Of course, from MST, we've got this beautiful E30 M3 body here with the wide body on it. And what we're going to do, we're going to look and see how much of a difference the chassis and other things can make with this. Now, both of these have aluminum wheels. I know aluminum wheels are actually not the best for drifting because it adds extra rotational weight, and you know, there's other videos that explain why aluminum is inferior to plastic when it comes to just overall drifting performance. All right, let's take a look underneath each one of these to see what we have different and what we have the same. So on this one has the stock ESC and motor from MST. This was the brushless ready to run kit that I got from MST. And again, RMX 2.5. So it did come with the motor mounted with a lower center of gravity like that. I've left it that way. I did go ahead and upgrade to the Yokomo Gyro and Servo. So that was the one thing. And of course, then I also put it on my Flysky receiver. I just prefer that system better. But overall, I've taken this to drift nights over at our local Hobby Town, which is now being renamed something else, but they're no longer going to be a Hobby Town franchise. But I've taken it over there to drift nights and been able to drift on the polished tile cement floor kind of surface that they've had. No problem with these. I'm not going to change the wheels out for this test. These are the stock tires, drift tires. They come with the MST 2.5. I'm just going to leave them like that. And now let's move over to the DeLorean. So on our DeLorean, like I said, this is a completely custom build, and this thing is a beaut. So I was just out racing it. That's why things are plugged in and turned on. It's still on right now, as you can see. But we have the same gyro, the same servo, the same receiver as our 2.5. But what we have different from motor ESC is we have the Furitek SlideVolt. That's right, it's the SlideVolt kit or combo. It comes with the 10.5 turn censored brushless motor, and it comes with this new ESC that's got the OLED display on it and this trackball, which as you touch it, it will randomly change colors. At least that's what it's set to do right now. Super cool ESC. Has the screen, shows you telemetry when you're looking at it, but of course you can change all of your settings on a menu. And if that wasn't enough, it still has the Bluetooth connectivity to connect to your phone using the Fury Car app, and you can change all the settings that way. These things are money, dude. I mean, like, they're not okay. So some people will say they're expensive because the combo retails for about, I want to say $315. However, on I want to say on sites like Hella Direct, they're on sale right now for Labor Day weekend for $285. So roughly about $285 price, and you can get it for that. But when you look at how much it costs to buy a programmer, a motor, and the ESC from some other companies that are in that same quality and grade, it ends up being more. So this is actually a really good value for this combo, and I'm gonna say that it is awesome. It works super well. The only issue with it is this ESC does get toasty. I was running it here for about 10 minutes or so, and when I went to reach, it's fine now, it's nice and cool now, but when I reached down to touch it earlier, it was pretty hot. I couldn't keep my finger on it for the 5 seconds, which is sort of the rule of thumb with heat. So it does get toasty. Some people say that you should mount a fan underneath it, then mount the ESC. Haven't done that yet. We'll maybe figure that out, take it off here and do that, but that's the way it is for now. So I was driving this for a little bit, and I've got some driving footage from the first day or so that I took it out. You know, hadn't driven drift in a while, so now I'm back into practice a little bit, gotten a little better at it again. You know, gotten kind of my warm-up done for this time of year. But this one does have these specific tires from Yokomo. These are the ones that Yokomo specifically makes for asphalt. This one's probably gonna just drive better overall because the compound or the resin or whatever you want to call these is going to be better for that asphalt driving. Of course, this chassis is a much more adjustable and nice chassis. Pretty much everything on this chassis is box stock setup with the measurements they tell you to do it in the box. I measured everything with the calipers to make sure the turnbuckles were set properly, exactly down to the millimeter or 1/10 of a millimeter or whatever it would be, the way it should be. The only thing though I noticed that when I drove it for the first time, the camber was off on this wheel, so I did adjust that turnbuckle a little bit to try to get this wheel camber more in alignment with this. All right, so we're going to show you some running footage of these two cars, and we're going to see how they compare. Let's go. All right, since we already had, you're seeing my steering wheel a little bit there on the remote. Since we already had the battery in the DeLorean here, we're going to go ahead and just start with that one, and here we go. And as I'm sure you can imagine, it's kind of hard to record and drive at the same time. This is a new experience for me. So I'm just start off with doing some drifts. It controls really well, and it also corrects really well. Like, this is very easy to drive. And even if I overthrow it a little bit, that steering angle that it has, I mean, it has almost a 90-degree angle it can do. It might actually be even 90 degrees. It turns those wheels pretty far. But the beauty of that is that you start to overthrow to where you're going to spin out. You got that little bit more steering angle that you can kind of give yourself some correction. So just try to do some not so precise figure eights here, but just kind of trying to do it without spinning the car out, oh, like right there. So we'll bring it back closer here. One other really cool thing, I'm going to see if you can hear it on the camera here, but this ESC has got a rev limiter. And the cool thing about the rev limiter is really just a scale thing, that if you give it full throttle, you'll hear it hit the rev limiter and give that like sputtering sound like a real gas drift car would. So check this out. We'll try to see if we can hit it on the way around here. And here we go. Okay, just totally spun it out doing that. But you might have heard that. Okay. Yeah, because I'm just trying to get that to go. I'll just do it stationary. Kind of hear it just like fluttering a little bit at that top end instead of just running solid. So that's our RPM limiter. But again, it just glides so smooth and it's just so handleable. Really works well. All right. Let's go check out the BMW and see how that does. You know, this is an interesting thing I'm going to point out real quick, how on the MST RMX 2.5 chassis, how they do the battery tray. So on the high-end MST version, they give you this little rotating, like a gate piece, if you will. And you just slide your battery in here. It has that same thing on the other side. And then you just flip it down and you hold the battery in place. And on this one, it's a little bit more robust. Like, I mean, it's more of a cage to really hold that battery in, and then you use the pins to secure it in place, which I can see this being stronger to hold stuff in. I'm a little bit wondering why though, when it's a drift car, you shouldn't be having too much of a crazy impact with this thing where the battery would come flying out. But Maybe they figured that's more so for beginners, since they might crash it more easily. Who knows? The other thing too that's interesting, on the stock electronics from MST, they use a Dean's plug. So if you're going to use a battery with bullet connectors, you just get one of these Dean's to 5mm bullet, or whatever size bullet your batteries use. I'm using the Gens Ace red lines. They use 5mm bullets, but I was able to find this probably on one of the hobby sites, or maybe even Amazon. And anyway, it's fine. So we're going to get our controller set to this car. There it is. All right, and now we'll go ahead and power it on. Okay. All right, let's go check it out. One of the things about drift cars is the priority for upgrading things should come down to, of course, wheels and tires, just like for everything. Wheels and tires first. But on a drift car, the things you want to upgrade probably right away, if you don't already have something good, is the gyro and the servo. Those two things are what are going to make a drift car handle better and be more fun to drive. And the problem with drift is that it's not the easiest right away. So these tires, I definitely think, are stickier, the stock MST tires, because I feel like they're gripping a lot more than the Yokomos that are made for asphalt. And asphalt is a stickier surface than polished concrete, right? So I can already feel right away that these tires grip a lot more right here. Now, anyway, getting back to the priority of upgrading your drift car, chassis is going to be next. Chassis is really important because you want something that's rigid, that doesn't give you a lot of flex, because that rigidity gives you predictability when it comes to drifting. If you get flex in there, especially at weird moments when you aren't expecting it, then all of a sudden the car is going to rotate in a way you weren't anticipating. Oh, there we go. Got it off the edge where it loses traction. There's a little bit of a gap there. Anyway, what I was saying is that flex is going to make your car rotate unexpectedly, and it's just not going to be as precise. You're going to have a harder time controlling it. But the gyro and the servo are the most important things. Probably the least important things to upgrade, not that they don't make a difference, but is the motor and ESC. Of course, a better motor and ESC will help, but that can come later on down the line. As you can see, that Yokomo gyro and servo still do a great job in this car here. Ooh, I almost over-rotated right there, but I was still able to save it. And this MST RMX 2.5 still has a decent amount of steering angle. It's not quite as much as the top-of-the-line MST chassis that I've got for the DeLorean. In fact, if we turn our wheels right there, you can see that it's about, it looks like it's about 80-ish degrees or so that's turning, where, you know, it's pretty, it's almost straight across, where the other one, I'll show you, we'll go back there and look at it. That one, those wheels turn just about straight to the side. And that those few extra degrees of angle make a difference. But so does the grippiness of your tires. Grippy tires are going to be easier to recover from an over rotation, because they're just going to dig in more when you need them to, even on that little bit of a correction that you need to do. So we're going to just do a couple figure eights here. The other thing too, again, keep in mind this one is a lower center of gravity motor mount or motor placement, where the other one has the high center of gravity motor mount. Oh, there we got a spin out. So each car we got one spin out so far. This one does not change directions as fast, but it's smoother. You know, the other one with the higher center of gravity, there's our second burnout. The other one with the higher center of gravity, you can throw it around a little bit more, and that's the point of putting the motor up higher, is that it makes that back end kick around a little faster. But having the lower center of gravity makes it a little more stable, and especially if you're starting out, I think it actually is better. And it's probably why MST does it, because the RMX 2.5 is an entry-level kit for drifting, Mind you, it's a damn good entry-level kit. Like, you could take this thing and race it for a long time and have a lot of practice to do before you outgrow anything. Yeah, I've had quite a few spin-outs on this one, so not quite holding as well. I'm curious, what is my gyro set on this one? Okay, so on the other car, the gyro is set at about 78% on the DeLorean, and on this one it's 92%. And that's just gonna vary based on what you do with it, how you set it up. I also noticed, and I just noticed this now when I opened it up, that my gyro is set perpendicular between the two cars. So this one, it's like set sideways, and the other car, I think it's set like front to back. I don't know if that makes a difference in how it senses things. I think it still senses things in like 360-degree space. So, I mean, it seems to work just fine. I don't seem to be having any issues with it holding an angle here. So, it seems to do really, really well. Drives really smooth, holds that line and holds that curve, that arc, to drift it around. And I still have that correction to bring it back. But overall, both work pretty darn nice. You definitely, I mean, the other one is definitely nicer, like, especially right there. I know that the higher end chassis with the greater angle of steering would have been able to save that spin out and we wouldn't have spun out. But this one here, still, for starting out and for getting like intermediate level of drifting, which I'm probably intermediate at best, at best, probably closer to beginner even, who knows. That is, this has got more than enough to get you going. It's really nice. And look how good that body looks. I mean, MST, I feel like all their bodies look really good. I feel like they've just done a really good job with making this. Let's get a nice tight drift circle right here. Again, apologies for my camera work because I'm watching the car, not necessarily watching the screen. You know, it's hard to watch the two things at once. I do like how this one, I feel like I can get this one a little bit tighter in the circles for some reason. You know, the DeLorean I can get pretty tight in a little circle too, but, oh, that's a spin out. But I don't know why, this one, it feels like a little bit easier to get like a tight circle like that, where I'm drifting. It's not a spin out because I'm still drifting. The other thing too is that the other one definitely has a higher RPM on full throttle. That was full throttle for that. And it's enough, it's plenty for drifting because you're not going that fast. You're just trying to get the wheel speed and to kind of steer with your throttle. Another spin out, geez. But this car is still a lot of fun. God, I love that M3 body. That would be a cool car to have. To get one in any kind of decent condition though, man, they are up there if you look at them. Those original E30 M3s. Let's take it out a little ways. See if we can't get a big drift going. Keep a nice big circle. Oh, no spinning out. There, I did it again. You know what? It's when you got the throttle up higher on this one, I feel like this one's easier to spin out, whereas that's where the other system and chassis and everything like that seems to do better when you're at a higher RPM on your throttle. It seems to be able to just hold that arc a little better. And both of them, the gyro is calibrated. I want to just emphasize how important that is. When you set up a drift car, you need to set your endpoints properly so that you're not stressing your steering assembly out. You know, you don't want to have the servo pushing against the endpoints that are in the chassis, right? So then you set your endpoints on your radio, and then you have to go on the servo, or excuse me, not on the servo, on the gyro, and on the Yokomos. Essentially, while you're turning the car on, you press and hold the endpoint button on the Yokomo gyro, and then you turn your wheel to each endpoint, each side. I don't think it matters which way you start, just that you turn it full right, and then you press the endpoint button on the gyro, then full left, and press the endpoint button on the gyro. After that, the gyro knows that the endpoints have been programmed, and then it remembers those so that when it's helping you with your steering angle in these drifts, it's not overexerting the steering system as well. Because really what happens with a drift car is you have two things steering the car at the same time. Your input and the gyro's input. Kind of like what the gyro overrides and helps you with to keep the thing steering in a certain angle. And you can sort of see it as you start to throw the car into a drift, the wheels will shudder just a little bit. You see that? Shudder just a little bit to kind of correct the car and keep it going in that nice arc and angle. And then once that angle is established, if you hold the throttle steady, the car will just spin. I'm letting go. There we go. See, like I let go of the wheel there for a second. I'll do it again. Get the car in a rotation. There's my hand, my steering hand. And there's the car still going in the background. And I'm just steering with the throttle. Eventually, it will straighten out, you know, because you will need that angular input from the front wheels to keep it in the spin or in the arc. But if you keep your, here we go again, boom. Okay, hand off the wheel. But don't run into the curb. If you keep the throttle going the right way, it'll stay in the spin. It'll stay in the arc, in the drift. All right, so that's our comparison of those two things. We'll take this back, put it on the truck bed, and I'll just show you up close the difference in the steering angles. So once again, here's the MST RMX 2.5 with our BMW body off, and we're gonna look at that steering angle right now. It looks like my tires on this one, I've got to remount because they kind of slid off the rims a little bit, so I'm gonna have to look at that. But anyway, here we go. So there we go. So you can look at the tire that is on the outside of the curve and how far it's pointing in. We'll get on the side so you can really see it. And that's, you know, that's like I mean, I'm probably not the best at guessing it, but like somewhere around 60, 70-ish degrees. And this one looks like it's at about, you know, close to around 80 some degrees, you know, in there. This one's clearly almost pointing straight to the side, but this one here is definitely not. And that's the farthest it goes. If we go the other way, same thing. You know, the wheels got a little bit of play, but of course this is a lower thing. You look, there's no turnbuckles to adjust camber here. All the links are solid in the front, so your steering geometry is pretty much just set with this one. You really can't change it. All right, we'll switch the battery over to the other one, and I will show you that up close too. And again, just how easy this is to put the battery in this one. That's it. What's not to love about that, right? Okay. And no, I don't push these bullet connectors all the way in because they do go in pretty snug and they're not the easiest to pull out. So, you know, I think I've got enough connection there. I mean, think about it. The power's going through this little solder joint right here. I think there's still plenty of surface area connection here in the battery. Probably fine. All right, turn everything on. We're going to show you the startup sequence of this thing, of the Furitek system. Try to see if I can get down there. It's hard to see the screen, but this is the thing you can kind of see here. It's doing like a startup check. And when you do that, you also just turn the motor a couple times. So I just turn the spur gear, and that's because it's censored, it's checking that. So it's kind of doing like a safety check to make sure all the systems are working right. All right, let's take a look at that steering angle. Look at this. So that is pretty darn good, okay? I would say it's a little bit more than the MST. It's still, you know, it's still not quite 90 degrees, but it's close. And that rear wheel is, yeah, the rear wheel is about the same. But this is wild. Like, okay, so maybe it's going one way and not the other. Because look at that. That's pretty good. that looks like it's like 70, 75, and then that's like 85 degrees. If we come back the other way, make sure that, you know, we're maxed out here. It feels like we're maxed out. It looks like there's a little less steering angle when going to the right than versus the left, but still a little bit more than the RMX in my opinion, from what I can see. Okay. And mind you, we're on this rubbery surface, so maybe it's having a little trouble getting max if I lift it up a little bit. Yeah, look at that. So, and again, you have all this adjustability with the turnbuckles for your steering, camber, toe, is it the cam angle or something like that? But anyway, love this thing. Love this thing too. Definitely get into drifting. So what can we take away from looking at these two cars? And let's say you're a beginner that's wanting to get into drifting, or maybe you're somebody that's tried it a couple times and you're like, man, I did not have as much fun. I couldn't quite get it to drift with my car. And I'm going to just tell you right now, the secret sauce is the gyro and the servo. If you bought an RTR drift car and you're having trouble kind of getting it into the drift and getting it to hold the drift as you go in circles and figure eights and all that stuff, upgrade that servo and gyro. Spend the money on good quality components. I highly recommend that Yokomo V4 gyro and whatever the top of the line Yokomo servo is. There's some debate between the V2 and I think the V3 servo, if that's out there as well. But between those two, like which one is better? Usually the latest one's going to be better, usually, okay? But if you upgrade those components, you are going to notice a huge difference. I know I did when I upgraded the BMW in this video from the stock MST gyro and servo to that Yokomo gyro and servo. I went from really struggling to kind of get it into the slide and hold the slide to where I was able to get into it and hold it a lot longer. And then of course, as my skills improved, I was able to just kind of hold it, you know, constantly. It was night and day. So that is going to help keep you in the hobby and keep you enjoying it versus getting frustrated, putting it away, and then eventually having something that just sits on your shelf that you never want to use. And then next thing you know, you're trying to sell it on Facebook Marketplace and deal with that whole mess of selling anything on Facebook Marketplace and what people are like on there. Gosh, I got a few things on there right now, and it's like, I'm just trying to sell some tool bins, and you get people who are constantly, you know, like, oh, will you take this for it? It's like, no, I mean, if you go to the store, anyway, you know what it's like. So don't be one of those people, by the way. So seriously, if you're going to get into drift, upgrade that gyro and servo. You can get that gyro and servo combo from Yokomo for under 200 bucks, and you will never have to upgrade it again. It is top of the line, high end. You will be able to take that thing out, put it in another build or another car down the line, and it's still going to work amazing. You won't ever outgrow it. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. I do really appreciate it. I am a new YouTuber when it comes to RC cars, so it would be super amazing and helpful if you would subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, like it, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought of it. What can I do to improve? What did you like? I'd like to do more things to help reach more of you and, you know what, be informative and helpful in this RC space. Thanks so much, and stay tuned for the next one. See ya.